So what's up guys? So here we are again, and in the previous video we tackled about the characteristics of Filipino people, their traits, and we already know their strengths, weaknesses, and we already know that. And we also tackle about the disaster preparedness and focusing on the first aid treatment. So for today's video, we will be dealing we will be having discussion about the environmental awareness. So for our learning objectives for this video is to educate the youth about environmental awareness, to analyze the causes of climate change and think of possible mitigation for the problem of your community is experiencing. And lastly is to determine the impacts of climate change and how people adapt to it. This is very important. So our focus in this video is the role of NSTP, environmental awareness, in knowing what makes the climate change. The impacts of climate change, and how do people adapt to climate change. So let's start. So we will first delve on the concept of environmental awareness. So it is where we are keep in touch and know the situation of our environment, both angles of it. We used to keep on what are the different problems arises as the environment keeps getting older. So that is very important. We will having an awareness for our environment. So we will proceed now on knowing what makes climate change. And as we used to comprehend, the Earth's climate is influenced by many factors, mainly by the amount of energy of greenhouse gases and aerosols in the atmosphere. So, based on science, it is very one of the causes of climate change, and the properties of the Earth's surface, which determines how of the solar system is retained or reflected back to space. So we'll now proceed on the causes of climate change. So basically there are two classifications of causes of climate change. First is the natural causes, and first is the human causes. So now first delve in the natural causes. First cause is the continental drift. The change in the physical features of the landmass, their position, and the position of water bodies. The separation of the land masses changed the flow of the ocean. Ocean currents and winds, which affected the climate, is one of the natural causes of climate change. It's very true. Next would be volcanoes. Volcano eruption throws out large volumes of sulfur oxide, water vapor, dust, ash into the atmosphere that pollutes the atmosphere. So, volumes of gases and ash can influence climatic patterns for years. It's raining. We'll proceed to the Earth's tiltation. Changes in the tilt of the Earth can affect the severity of the seasons. More tilt means warmer summers and colder winters. Less tilt means cooler summers and milder winters. That's very true. And last causes in the natural causes is the ocean currents. You should know this. The oceans are the major components of climate system. That is very true, and we should know that. They cover about 71% of the Earth and absorb about twice as much of the sun's radiation as the atmosphere of the land surface. So after the natural causes, we will now proceed on the human causes. We will now know on how the human activities affects the rise of greenhouse gases and their sources. So now we'll proceed on we will now delve into the carbon dioxide as one of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. It is the most important greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. The effects of deforestation, land clearing, agriculture, and other activities of humans have all led to a rise in the emission of the carbon dioxide. That is very true. B. Methane. About one-fourth of the methane emissions are said to came from domestic animals, such as dairy cows, goats, pigs, and horses. These animals produce methane during the cud chewing process. And next would be nitrous oxide. A large amount of nitrous oxide emission has been contributed to fertilizer application. Yes. And last is the nitrogen. Contributions are also made by leguminous plants such as beans and pulses that add nitrogen to the soil. It's very important. So basically, those are the greenhouse gases and their sources regarding the human causes. So basically, those are the greenhouse gases that are affected by the human activities linked into the climate change. So now we'll be dealing on the impacts of climate change and that we have already observed in our environment. So a great example for this is the melting of snow, ice, and frozen ground. Is throwing hydrological and biological systems are changing and in some cases being disrupted. Migrations are starting earlier and other species and geographic changes are shifting towards the poles. So the animals or any kind of species are shifting between poles because of the climatic changes in their environment that they live. The melting glaciers can threaten mountain settlements and water resources, and even damage associated with coastal flooding are increasing. And next would be, how do people adapt to climate change? Humans need to adapt in the impacts of climate change. For instance, through technological solutions such as coastal defenses and changes in consumption of habits. Next is vulnerability of human populations to climate change and its consequences can be affected by other factors. Yes, that's very true, such as pollution, conflicts, or experiences such as AIDS. An emphasis in sustainable development can help human societies reduce their vulnerability to climate change. So that's the second thought on how do people adapt to climate change. And the last concept is mitigation measures that aim to reduce greenhouse gases emissions can help avoid, reduce, or delay impacts and should be implemented in order to ensure the adaptation capacity is not exceeded. So those are the concepts on how do people deal or adapt to climate change. And hope you like this video. Thank you for watching and please like and share. Thank you.